Hello and welcome to the JB&M Sports Fanatic channel. Thank you for joining me for this video. And yeah, the Seahawks, they're bringing in another tight end. And this one is Cam Sutton. And so he's 6'6" last year. He was undrafted out of Fresno State. And he did get an invite to camp with the Carolina Panthers. However, he ended up not making a roster there. And so this would be a great opportunity for him to come in and really try to make a name for himself and, just show the coaching staff what he can do. So in terms of the Seahawks, definitely adding depth at the tight end position was something that, had to be addressed. Obviously, one of the biggest, acquisitions that they had this offseason was bringing in, tight end Gerald Everett. And so that's obviously, big upgrade there for the position. But I mean, given that, Will Disley's, history of getting injured throughout the season, historically, they definitely want to make sure that they shore up, as many tight ends as possible, just to have that depth. And so that's certainly something that they have to do. And I mean, there's still guys on the market, like that they can probably bring in that would add some more stability at the tight end position. But for now, Cam Sutton, he's the guy. 6'6", so he's pretty big. And in terms of, obviously last year when it came to the production that they got from the tight end position, they relied, mostly on, Will Disley, Jacob Hollister, Greg Oden. Those were the three tight ends that I guess you could say that they utilized throughout the season. And let's see, if you look at Will Disley and his receptions, he had 24 receptions actually for 251 yards and two touchdowns. Look at Greg Olsen. He actually had 24 receptions as well for 239 yards and one touchdown. And you look at Hollister, and he had 25 receptions for 209 yards and three touchdowns. So they basically were pretty even across the board with all three tight ends in terms of production, but none of them really had a really impressive, I guess you can say, season from a receiving end at the tight end position. But that being said, though, I mean, the Seahawks, they relied heavily on their receivers, DK Metcalf, 1,300 yards, 15 receiving touchdowns on 83 receptions. That's pretty good. And then Tyler Lockett, I mean, 100 receptions, over 1,000 yards, six receiving touchdowns. And then obviously you sprinkle in, David Moore. And so, yeah, it was definitely relying heavily on the receivers in terms of pass catching. So certainly understand that. And the Seahawks, I mean, they were certainly, a top 10 offense. It's just towards the end of the year, it seems like things started to slow down a little bit. But overall, throughout the year, there's definitely a fantastic offense. And we all know this offseason with Russell Wilson, being unhappy, particularly with the offensive line, wanting to see improvements. Obviously, he wants to air the ball out more. And so as many weapons as you can get him, that'll help. And so, but Cam Sutton, I mean, in order for him to make the team, he's going to have to wow the coaching staff with his ability to block, honestly. Throughout his time at Fresno State, he did not get a lot of receptions. The ball wasn't really thrown to him that much, but he did not get a lot of receptions. I believe throughout his time there, he had 9 receptions for 154 yards over his final two seasons, not just 1 year, over the final two seasons in his collegiate career. So he'll definitely have to prove that his run blocking abilities is, above, I'd say great, probably even excellent for him to make the roster just purely to come in and, be a blocker. So that's another thing to consider there. And so just to recap his time at the collegiate level, or even before that, when it came to high school, he actually was a wide receiver at high school. So that's pretty interesting. I mean, it could have been a run heavy team possibly, but he actually was a receiver at high school. And then prior to Fresno State, he spent a season at Riverside City College where he helped the team to a 10-2 overall record in 2017. And then as a junior, he saw action in 13 of 14 games, finished with 3 receptions for 42 yards, had 1 reception in 3 different games versus Toledo, Wyoming, and Hawaii, and posted a season-long catch of 20 yards in that contest against Wyoming. And then as a senior, he appeared in all 12 games as a senior, had 2 carries and 6 catches for the Bulldogs, and recorded 112 receiving yards and 34 rushing yards, and had a career-long 37-yard reception against Colorado State. And so that made his average 18.7 yards per catch. But again, not a lot of volume there in terms of reception. So, yeah, there's really he's gonna have to show. I mean, if he does, possess, the ability to catch the ball, it just hasn't been showcased, at the level to where scouts would have been able to see it. But the Seahawks, they'll bring him in and see what he can do in terms of, obviously blocking is going to be key for him in order to get those opportunities on the field, and we'll see how it works out for him. It's the time of year where you bring in as many camp bodies as you can. So we'll see how that works out. But with that being said, thank you so much for joining me for this video. Hope you enjoyed it. And as always, as more news continues to drop, you can be sure to find it here. So thanks again for watching, and see you guys next time.